Good afternoon and welcome to today's edition of the Afternoon Edition. Today we shall be focusing on the World Cities Day, which took place just yesterday. And before now, there are several issues on what urbanization is all about and how can we advance the world. But at this particular point in time, the question is how can we advance Nigeria? And the best way to advance it definitely are the questions that the town planners would need to answer. And before now, issues that has to do with what cities is comes with various topics every year. But for this year, the theme of this year is financing sustainable urban future for all. And the World Cities Day is expected to greatly promote the international community's interest in global urbanization, push forward cooperation among countries in meeting opportunities, addressing challenges of urbanization, and contributing to the sustainable urban development around the world. And domestically, it is critical that all relevant stakeholders in this particular sector must be involved in making decisions on investment instead of only those involved in collecting taxes and other revenues. So urbanization provides the potential for new forms of social inclusion, including greater equality, access to services, and new opportunities and engagement and mobilization that reflects the diversity of cities, countries, and the globe. Yet too often this is not the shape of urban development. Inequality and exclusion abound, often at rates greater than the national average, at the expense of sustainable development that delivers for all. So in a world where cities are growing and expanding at an expanding rate, as an unprecedented rate, it becomes increasingly clear that we must make strategic investment in green urbanization to ensure a sustainable future. So efforts to mitigate climate change, halt and reverse biodiversity loss, stops in pollution, and combat poverty and inequality will continue to be critical in cities. So today we are going to be focusing on this, and as a result of that, we'll be having the National President of Nigeria Institute of Town Plan, Mr. Nathaniel Atebije, to give us an understanding of what the World Cities Day this year is all about. The role of town planners cannot be pushed aside, and when you have the national chairman or the national president, definitely there are several questions you need to ask with respect to how can we move Nigeria forward. Is it just whenever we talk about Nigeria, we talk about only Lagos, we talk about only Abuja, and then few other old cities? What is happening with respect to the growing number of populace, the issue of markets, how people are trooping in, trooping out without organized structure for development of our cities? So how can we create new cities? How can we make our cities better? Now that we even have the ministers on ground, the present appointed ministers, that of the FCT, that of National Housing and the rest, how can they work together to make sure that, yes, this goal of a better world, of a better city is well created across, so that Nigerians can have a feel that, yes, you don't need to travel to London, you don't need to travel to the United States, you can just travel to some of these cities we have in Akwa Ibom, in Cross River, in Lagos, in Kogi, and every city center should be a developed place for Nigerians to be able to tour and bring out the best. So that's why today we are having the national president who is here, and definitely will be telling us more about the World Cities Day and how town planners can help us in reshaping our city for better living. So let's go on this break, and when we return, we start up with the conversation, and possibly we can have the United Nations General Secretary delivering his speech on that particular day, which was yesterday. So let's take this break.
We are a nation blessed with people of diverse cultures, religions, languages, and opinions. It is ironic that we are now being ripped apart by our greatest strength, our diversity. We have allowed intolerance, insensitivity, bigotry, and nepotism to blind our vision of the greatness we can achieve working together as one. We may not have the same culture, nor religion, nor language, but we all belong to the same nation by the divine will of God. We did not choose to be Nigerians. Nigeria chose us. This nation is our divine heritage, and if we open our eyes, we would realize that what divides us pales in comparison to what unites us. And by the comparison and conciliation of our differences, we will grow until our differences disappear. Our unity cannot be willed by mere declarations, nor do we get unity by ignoring the questions that beg for answers. We must celebrate our diversity and debate our differences without fracturing our unity. Our strength is not in our numbers, but in our unity, because even the weak become strong when united. Nigeria unite.
This message is brought to you by Abuja Broadcasting Corporation, owners and operators of ASO Radio 93.5 FM Abuja, ASO Television DSTV Channel 392, Star Times Terrestrial Channel 127, Free TV Channel 507, People's TV Channel 285, and UHF Channel 38.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to greet the celebration of World Cities Day in Istanbul. Cities play a pivotal role in achieving the 2030 Agenda and the Sustainable Development Goals. They foster innovation, culture, and economic growth. They are also key to tackling today's complex challenges, from growing inequalities to the triple planetary crisis, from quality education to healthcare. Local authorities often struggle with limited support and resources to deliver for their communities, while demand for infrastructure, affordable housing, efficient transport, green spaces, and social services is immense and growing. The situation calls for a new social pact based on human rights. Governments, international organizations, the private sector, and civil society must work together to mobilize finance for inclusive and resilient cities that support both people and our planet. Sustainable policies and urban planning create green jobs and opportunities for the youth, enable digital connectivity, and advance gender equality. Circular economies save money, reduce emissions, and promote public health. I salute the government of Turkey on its zero waste initiative and the personal commitment of Her Excellency Emin Erdogan. And I send my best wishes to tomorrow's meeting of my advisory board of eminent persons on zero waste here in Istanbul. Dear friends, as we mark World Cities Day, let us work together for urban areas that are beacons of sustainability, resilience, and prosperity for all. Thank you.
You've listened to the United Nations Secretary General with respect to the World Cities Days, and definitely there are so many issues. The world is growing at an exponential rate, and how can the cities get to hold the populace across the globe? So these are pertinent questions that needs to be answered. And today, like I informed you before the break, we are having the national president of the Nigeria Institute of Town Planning, Mr. Nathaniel Atebije. Good afternoon, sir, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
It's nice having you today, and the World Cities Days happened yesterday. So what's your take on the World City Day?
The World Cities Day is an important event in the life of the world, because that is when we talk about issues that relate to the cities, because the cities we have, they are the images of nations. If your cities are bad, the image of the nation is bad. Now, beyond that, cities are centers where major decisions about living and economy is taken. And so if we do not develop the cities to an extent that we can rely upon decisions that are taken in this place, then the whole nation is in trouble. Cities are centers of innovation. Cities are centers of excellence. Cities are centers of employment. And you can be sure that the agglomeration of people in cities is actually tremendous. Every day people are going into cities. Fewer people are going out of the cities into the rural areas. And that is why it is very, very important, very critical for us to think very well about how we nurture our cities.
Okay, so what is the significance of this particular year's theme, which is financing sustainable urban future for all, in the context of the World Cities Day?
Now, you agree with me that where there is no money, you cannot have any meaningful development. And that is why the issue of finance comes in, because quite a lot of thoughts, imaginations, plans, programs, and policies have been made by various governments, interest groups. But at the end of the day, these things cannot be implemented. Why? Because of lack of funds. So financing urban development is very, very important. Like I said somewhere else, now there are things that make intentions work. When it is in the public sector, you need the political will of people who are in the decision-making class. And apart from the political will, you need the release of funds. In government, they will call cash backing. Now, so if there is political will and we do not have funds, you are not going to get it. And if you have funds and you have no political will, at the same time, you are not going to get results. So you need the plan, you need the political will, and you need the funding. There are other things that are also incidental to having good plans implemented, which also has to do with technical servicing, having the right manpower, and in their good numbers, and also equipment. These things work together to give us good urban areas.
Okay, so we'll just take a very short break, and we'll be back definitely for you to answer some of these questions, because there are so much that you need to respond to. So let's go for this break quickly, and when we return, we continue with the program.
Mr. President, last Saturday, the country which I have the honor to represent, the Federation of Nigeria, became independent and assumed the rights and the responsibilities of a sovereign state. Today, Nigeria has been admitted into the United Nations organization and assumes still more responsibilities. I wish to make our position plain beyond any matter of doubt as regards the African continent. We in Nigeria appreciate the advantages which the size of our country and of its population give us, but we have absolutely no aggressive intentions. We shall never impose ourselves upon any other country, and shall treat every African territory, big or small, as our equal, because we honestly feel that it is only on that basis of equality that peace can be maintained in our continent. We in Nigeria are a populous country. There are about 40 million of us, and our territory is relatively large. We are willing to learn before we rush into the field of international politics. But we are totally unwilling to be diverted from the ideals which we think true. That is the reason, Mr. President, why we in Nigeria shall not be found to align ourselves as a matter of routine with any particular bloc. Indeed, I hate the very idea of blocs existing at all in the United Nations. It seems to me to be a contradiction in terms. And when we hear the world crying out for peace, we may receive the inspiration to deal with these intractable problems and be able really to devote all our resources to the advancement of mankind by applying those eternal truths which will inevitably persist long after we ourselves are utterly forgotten. Thank you, Mr. President.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining us still on this particular program. I'm just taking some time out to make sure that, yes, we get the best of audio out. And sir, just before the break, you were elaborating more on the issue of the financing and the role. But you being the national president, let me also congratulate you that you are coming back for the second tenure. What are your plans now that we are celebrating the World Cities Day? Being the national president, the president has also recently appointed ministers, and that will also cover some of these particular. What are your plans for them?
Let me first of all start from the issue of the the theme for this year, talking about the urban future. Any reasonable human being, any rational human being should be very, very conscious of the future. The past is gone. We are facing what we have today, but tomorrow is very, very important. And if anything, we should be, let me say, afraid of tomorrow. Not that we fear, not that we are intimidated, but it is important for us to be very conscious of the future, because that is the history of those of us who are living today. And what is more important for any human being, that you have, if you have not left legacies, then you just pass through the world without an impact. And I think that this is the essence of discussing the future from today. And the future from today is the whole essence of urban planning. Now, we should leave the world better than we met it. And the only way to leave the world better than we met it is to plan for tomorrow. Now, as the national president of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, we will continue our advocacy, to governments, to private individuals, to institutions, to other bodies, to ensure that everybody understands the essence of planning. Because where there is no planning, shame is coming ahead, destruction is coming ahead. And that is one of the critical issues, programs that we will concentrate on in my second tenure as the national president of the institute. We make people know that if they do not plan, they are only planning to perish. We make people to know that except they plan, there is danger ahead. We make people to know that if they do not plan, they are only cultivating, the bed for confusion and destruction. So we will intensify our advocacy programs to the public until everybody around us, everybody who has anything to do with us, and anybody indeed who wants to live, will know that without physical planning, without urban planning, there is no way to go. There is no way to live.
Okay, presently, do you see any major threats? I know you've already stated it that yes, there are greater challenges ahead. But in Nigerian context now, do you see any major problem that we are having in our cities, most especially how the politicians do take care of issues that has to do with urban development?
Yeah, we have quite a lot of issues in the urban areas. One that is very common is the issue of slums, urban sprawl, traffic congestion, insecurity, lack of basic infrastructure, and this one has also given room to environmental problems such as flooding and health problems, that when epidemics break out, it becomes so contagious and people can easily contact these sicknesses and diseases. These are very, very major issues in our urban areas, and we need to take care of them. Now, we talk about the issue of insecurity. Why would there be no insecurity when there are slums? Slums, they do not have a plan, they do not have street names, they do not have house numbers, and so anybody can do anything and just escape into the thin air, and you cannot trace him. These are some of the challenges we have around us. Now, it wouldn't have been possible, for Abuja per se to experience flooding, if not that some people introduced, illegal developments, that's to say developments without approval, if not that people, on their own went and created slums in places. Of course, I know they are doing this so that they can create affordable shelter for themselves. So these are matters, and Abuja is even better, so to say. But when you look at other cities across the country, they are in very, very appalling state. Now, reading through literature, like I was saying somewhere else, looking at literature, out of 172 cities studied in the world, trying to know the quality of living in these cities. The Nigerian city that was involved in that study, which is Lagos, it became number 171 after Damascus. Damascus was the last in terms of the livability index, and Lagos was number 171. What does it tell you? It tells you that we are in a very, very woeful position in terms of the quality of our urban areas, or in terms of the quality of developments in our cities, and we need to take very, very drastic measures. And that's why I said that, look, the government, if they appreciate these things, we should declare a state of emergency on our cities.
Well, if you say the government, if they will appreciate, but I remember as at last year where we had the issue of Kogi flooding, the other cities were flooding, and then you advised. And I think the government picked your advice with respect to what happened this year in terms of the rain downpour that we have. So are you satisfied that even they listen to you and then they also take you from some of the statements you've made last year?
Thank you. Yes, it is not a one-day solution. You have to continue to take further steps. Again, like I know, the government is making some efforts, but we need to make more efforts. For example, unbundling the Ministry of Works and Housing, which was there before, and now we have the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development. We are getting close. We are getting close. When you put the right professionals in the right places, we are sure that you get results. And that is why we have good hopes that, having created a ministry for housing and urban development at the federal level, we are looking forward to state governments taking the same or similar steps so as to have similar ministries. And this will give a focus in terms of how we develop our cities and urban areas, and of course, not to the neglect of the rural areas. We must also carry the rural areas or villages along, so that the pressure we have on the cities will also reduce. But it is not just enough to create a ministry. And in the light of what we are discussing, it is more critical that, thank God that we now have political will. The next thing now is cash packing. Give this new ministry that has been created enough staff, enough equipment, enough funds to be able to operate, and then we'll start talking.
You just made me remember, Oliver Twist, that when you ask for one, the one is given. You ask for another. Because I remember all this. I know just before the election, we had an interview with you, and you also had a press briefing advising with respect to the election, where you stated that clearly that, yes, it is good that you have a ministry for urban planning, and now you have it. So now there are so many questions that definitely you'll be asking for, and I hope that you will have solution. So now, what do you think?
You say, well, yes, if you are asking, if Oliver Twist was greedy, it would be a non-issue. Yes. But if Oliver Twist was asking for something rational, to meet the urgent demands of his need, then you know that Oliver Twist is not just asking for something for nothing. He's asking for something for something.
Okay, let me quickly take you through this. What strategies can town planners employ to ensure that urban development projects align with the goal of sustainable urban futures as highlighted in the World Cities Day?
Well, what else can town planners do other to advocate that we should plan, involve professional town planners in the creation of environments within the city fabric, take advice from professionals. Again, let me also say to our authorities and the powers that be, many times they believe that maybe Nigerian professionals are not experienced enough. And sometimes, in a lighter mood, we also ask the politicians that think that Nigerians are not Nigerian professionals are not experienced enough. Sometimes we ask, somebody came and he became a governor for the first time, where did he get his experience from? And then you are a governor today and you think that Nigerian professionals who have been working for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years on the field and they have mastered their game. You say, well, you prefer somebody who is coming from Lebanon, you prefer somebody who is coming from UK, US, to give them planning projects to do. We have, and in my dialect, they say that a stranger does not know the backyard. And so when you have a stranger that comes, he imposes his own, he doesn't know the culture of the people, he knows the culture of where he's coming from. He doesn't know the ideals of Nigerians. He only knows the ideals of where he's coming from. And their own ideals are different from our own ideals. Their thoughts are far away from our thoughts. Their road standards are different from our road standards. Why? Because the things we have, or the things they have, the facilities they have, we do not have. So, in fact, even in terms of trying to know the aspirations of the people, they cannot, because they have a barrier in terms of understanding language interpretation. And so one of the things that will make us to realize the ideals of the Sustainable Development Goals is that let us engage Nigerian consultants. There are ways to do this thing. If you want somebody from outside this country to participate, as Nigerian consultants, we know our colleagues who are offshore. And if you give me a project that I need external hands from outside this country, I know who to bring. Not you giving a job to an expatriate and then he looks for Nigerians. He will not be able to get the right results.
So are you a major pusher for regional cities or state cities?
Well, it is part and parcel of the planning program, because cities, or rather human settlements, are in hierarchies. They are in hierarchies, from the hamlet to the village, from the village to the urban area, from urban area to the city, and from city to megalopolis, from megalopolis to you even get to mega cities. Yeah, so of course all the cities cannot be the same. So that is true.
Okay, now looking forward, in your role as the national president of Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, how do you engage various levels and sectors of government to collaborate on investment decisions for urban development projects beyond tax?
Yeah. Now, okay, fine. Like we have said, one thing that makes projects succeed is inclusiveness. Engage the people who we are planning for. Now, in time past, we used to talk about town planners being the experts. Yes, indeed, we are experts in land use planning and every aspect of urban planning. But when we are doing it, get the people along. Carry the people along, because when you get them to know what you are doing and when you get them to know the benefits of what you are doing, by the time the product comes out, it becomes, you have a win-win situation in which they are interested in the realization of a project as much as you, the professional. So this is the way to go. Inclusiveness is very key to the realization of projects that we have at heart.
The present minister of the FCT, Barrister Nyesom Wike, is someone that loves to see that yes, there is development. And have you taken advantage of him having that kind of mindset of city development, you being the national president of the town planners?
Yes, in a way, I've written a letter to congratulate him, and I've also written to him to say that we would like to have a courtesy call on him in which we'll be able to discuss professional issues and which has to do with the management of the FCT, land management and planning. Well, we are still waiting for his response. So when he opens the door for us to be with him, we'll be able to expose to him some of the issues that need to be tackled to give Abuja, to put Abuja on the right wheels. But with all due respect, we appreciate his passion, for getting Abuja to the ideals. But I think you also need the attention of professional planners and those who are experienced that are in the town. There are quite a lot of people that have the knowledge of the history and the development process of the city that he needs to hear from, and that will guide his decisions.
Okay, in that particular respect, and what are the other the urban planning practices, most especially here within the FC, that can enhance social inclusion, equality, and access to services in this rapidly growing city?
Yeah, the other things we have to do. In the past, there was something we call town hall meetings that we used to hold, in which we get information from people. The beneficiaries of our planning projects, they come to discuss with us. The beneficiaries of our thoughts, they come to discuss with us. So again, we need to revive such town hall meetings. And when the people see that the minister is here to talk to them, when they see that the functionaries of government are here to talk to us, we understand one another, because you need the people to implement projects. You need the people to know their reactions to your policies and programs, and this is the only way to succeed.
One major issue that you raised earlier on was the issue of indiscriminate building and the rest of it, that has also affected planning our cities and the rest of it. And one major problem that we still have is how we tax people who build house, and then how can we get people to come and invest in this housing unit and the rest of it like that. What are the other plans that you think the government need to open doors to say that yes, this development of our cities is accelerated?
Well, I think what is very important is to minimize the stress of access to titles, land titles, within the FCT. Number two, thank God for what the minister is doing now, resurfacing some of the roads that seem to be getting weaker or dilapidated within the city. But more importantly, we have quite a lot of spaces in phase 2 of the city, in phase 3 of the city, that don't have infrastructure. If this infrastructure were provided, it will now spread the development. The congestion that we have in phase 1 will be minimized, and you see that the development will be more rational, more spread, across the terrain. I think let the minister look into how to provide rapid infrastructure within some of the districts in phase 2 that are yet to be serviced. And if God helps him and is able to do so in some parts of phase 3 before the end of his tenure, I'm sure that it will give us a better way of developing rapidly.
Okay, for the benefit of our viewers, when you say phase 2, phase 3, which of these areas are you talking about?
Okay, phase 1, let me name the districts.
Okay.
From the central area. Okay, let me use Tipper Garage, from Tipper Garage going along Nnamdi Azikiwe Road through Bega to Area 1 to Apo Roundabout, and then which includes Wuse 1 and 2, Maitama, Aisokoro, Gerki, and possibly, Guzape. These are the districts in phase 1. Now, between this road that I have mentioned, that is Nnamdi Azikiwe, and Ring Road 2, which takes off from Gwarimpa, up through Dantata Bridge, as they call it in Kuchingoro, through Lokogoma to Apo Mechanic. That is the boundary of phase 2. And then phase 3, taking off from around Dawaki, and ending, going through, what do you call it, Lube, Piakasa, down to the end of that until you meet Ring Road, Outer Southern Expressway, which is the same Apo Mechanic Road. So these are the divisions. Then today you have phase 4, phase 5 also, coming up. So I think that we need to bring in some development of infrastructure within phases 2 and phase 3, so that the pressure on phase 1 will be reduced, and that will catalyze development in these places, especially for the commercial developments, because we have sector center A, sector center B, sector center C and D that are yet to be fully given infrastructure for them to develop well. And when these commercial activities are developed, you can see that people will be attracted into those places, and you see that development will be catalyzed.
Okay, recently I watched a video online where they were discussing about the beautiful cities in Africa, and I think Abuja topped that of Nigeria. But then you look at Abuja, you see the connectivity in terms of the road, despite the fact that we are not yet there where we are expected to be. Are you satisfied with the kind of connectivity we have in Abuja and then across other states? You traveled to Delta State recently, and what can you say with respect to the town planning connectivity across the Nigerian Federation?
Yes, Abuja relatively is better than other places. Why? Because it was planned from the scratch. Little of organic or spontaneous development in the areas that have plants, and even those places that are developing spontaneously or organically, you discover that it is going to be a temporary thing, because they will be removed when the time comes, when development catches up with such places. Or even if the idea of integration flies, you can be sure that they will be given good connectivity and through good infrastructure. So relatively, Abuja is better than other places, but yet it is not. We have not reached there. We need to do much more.
Okay, so what are the practical steps town planners need to take to tackle issues of inequality and exclusion within urban development projects?
What we do most of the times, and this was incorporated into the design process of Abuja, to make sure that one, all categories of people, categories in terms of social levels, the rich, the poor, the middle income, they are allowed to live within the same environment. In the colonial days, there used to be what they called GRA. They used to have GRA. Is there any GRA in Abuja?
It's been long I've heard of that.
Okay, so Abuja is an inclusive city, because within every district you have provision for the low income, for the middle income, and for the, if you go to Area 1 now, you see 1-bedroom flat for people, you see 2-bedroom flats, you see 3-bedroom flats, you see duplexes. So it's provided to accommodate everybody. So this is the way to go, so that you promote inclusiveness among all social the ladder of the social arrangements of people. So
I'm very happy you raised the issue of the government residential areas, the GRAs. It makes me to remember what happened in Lagos. That's where I grew up, in Apapa, where you have that exclusive reserve. And then you also mentioning that with what is happening in Abuja is a very good one. So from an urban planning perspective, if I would say, how can green urbanization now principles be integrated into infrastructural development to ensure sustainability?
Yeah, that is actually being enforced and practiced. If you take anything to development control for approval now, we talk about the type of energy source that you are going to use. We encourage, green energy to ensure that, the use of solar and the use of inverters and whatsoever, it is being encouraged. And if you talk about issues of landscaping, the green spaces are highly promoted. So these are good steps being enforced. In fact, at the time I was still in service, there were some people that were actually sent out to go and really study very well about green energy provisions. This has been of great help to the Development Control Department, and I know that these things are being actually practiced. But let me tell you, one of the issues we have really is that when these things are planned, when people go for implementation, sometimes they do things which were outside the plan, and these are the things distorting the quality of our urban environments. And why is it like that? It is because we run into trouble, into problems of effective monitoring. Why is it that there is a problem in that? Because equipment to monitor is not even there. You don't have enough vehicles. You don't have enough vehicles. I don't know how even the few vehicles that they have in that office, how they are maintained, whether they get enough servicing, whether they get enough fuel, and so on and so forth. Perhaps it's a subject of another study for you to know some of the things that are happening that we cannot effectively monitor and control developments in this city. Therefore, we will recommend to government, please, this city is our life. The quality of the city is what depicts the quality of our standard of our life and the image of Nigeria. Therefore, we have to watch it carefully and develop Abuja, diligently to ensure that we get the type of environment that befits Nigeria and that talks about the image of Nigeria in the Committee of Nations.
Okay, just to cap it all in 1 minute, if you can just answer this, what's your message to town planners across the nation on this particular day?
Town planners should please act with integrity, be professional enough. Government, please invite town planners to work with you. You have better cities, better environment, better economics, if only you engage town planners to plan your cities.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nathaniel Atebije. It's nice having you on this particular program. Mr. Nathaniel Atebije is the National President of the Nigerian Institute of Town Planners, and we've been discussing the World Cities Day, and he has given the best of recommendation for, before now he has been giving that, and government has been also acting on issues that has to do with managing our urban cities. So this is how far we can go today on this program. My name is Isanu. Have a wonderful day and stay blessed.